Hi there, I'm Vincent Bos and I provide dating and self-improvement advice. And in today's podcast, we're going to be discussing why your ex isn't thinking about you. I provide audio coaching for breakup recovery, trying to get an ex back, attracting someone new, and life coaching. Visit www.dateme.tips for more details. Please check your spam and junk folders if you are expecting an email from me. Check out my socials for extra content. The links are in the description. So now let's get back into today's podcast. And today we are discussing why your ex isn't thinking about you. So if you have been dumped and want to try to get your ex back, you need them to think about you. But what if right now they aren't? Have they forgotten? In today's podcast, I'm discussing 3 reasons why your ex isn't thinking about you right now. So let's get straight into this. And point number 1 is you are contacting them constantly or consistently. So if you're a dumpee and you're listening to this and you're thinking, okay, today's podcast is about why my ex isn't thinking about me. And point number 1 is that I'm contacting them constantly or consistently. Well, how does that make any sense? Because if I'm contacting them, how can they not be thinking about me? Surely that means that they are thinking about me because they are reading my message, they are answering the phone, even if they don't answer, they can see that I'm calling, etc., etc. But what I would suggest is that although, of course, yes, in that very moment that you are trying to make contact, they will of course be recognizing who it is who is making the contact and hence thinking of you for a moment. What I would say is that this actually reduces the chance of your ex-dumper thinking of you in any meaningful way for any sustained period of time. The reason for this is twofold. Firstly, if you're pestering your ex, if you're annoying your ex, if you're chasing your ex, then you are going to be going down in their estimation. They will be losing romantic emotional attraction for you. And the fact that they sadly dumped you means this level of attraction was pretty low anyway. But think about it logically. If you chase, if you pester, if you annoy, and trust me, that's what you're doing. If you have been dumped and you have had the situation explained to you, ask for why, and then you keep continually trying to contact your ex, that's annoying them. Now, even if you think, well, I didn't even have any explanation, I was ghosted. Sometimes you have to read between the lines. If somebody doesn't want to be in our life right now, that suggests they don't want to communicate. Most of the time, that is the logical thought process to have. And if you keep trying to contact your ex, you're going to be going down in their estimation, you're going to be annoying them. Whether it's fair or not, that is a debate for another day. Whether it is something they should have done, that is something that you can have in your own mindset, but you can't take away the fact that they've decided to end the relationship one way or another, and they've stepped away, and they no longer, at this time, want to communicate. If you keep trying to communicate, you are going to be annoying your ex. And that is that first point, that first sub-point when point number 1. They're not going to be thinking of you in a positive light because you're frustrating them. But the broader picture of point number 1, the second sub-point you could say, is the fact that they know you are there and hence they don't have to have any concerns. They don't have to have any worry because they know you are there. They know you are their safety net. They know that they can live their life however they want to because you'll be there, because they already know in their mind you will be contacting them. So even though it's annoying them, it is also a little bit of safety for them. The fact that you are there. Now, I did say in point number 1, it was about contacting your ex constantly or consistently. And it's important to discuss these elements to this because they are different. If you constantly contact your ex every single day, you're trying to text or call, wait outside where they work, knock on their door, whatever it may be, if you're trying all of the time in different ways, then that is of course going to be A, annoying your ex, and B, definitely showing that you're still there, okay? But even if you're not doing that, and I would suggest that most of you don't fall into that first category. Most of you probably fall into the consistently category, which doesn't mean you're contacting your ex every day, and hence in your mind you're thinking, well, I'm not annoying them, I'm not frustrating my ex, I only contact them every few weeks. How is that a bother? How is that a frustration? Well, even if you don't think it is annoying them, firstly, it probably still is, but secondly, that consistency is helping your ex understand that you're always there. And they are believing that you are their safety net because they know in their mind, every 3 or 4 weeks, my dumpee contacts me. I know they're there. I'll go off living my life. I know they're not doing anything themselves because every month or so, I get contact. So even if you are leaving it a sustained period of time, you might be thinking, well, it's weeks. This isn't something which shows I'm there. I'm reaching out every 30 days because certain people online promote a 30-day no contact rule. Well, that's not me. You'll never hear me promote a 30-day no contact rule, but sadly, some people do. And people who follow that rule will think it's absolutely fine to get their ex back in that way. If you get your ex back using that method, you were in the minority. It was luck. It probably was going to happen anyway. For instance, your ex was probably on the verge of reaching out to you anyway, but you just jumped the gun by messaging them a few hours earlier coincidentally. Most of you who are using the 30-day no contact rule or in some other way reaching out to your ex in a consistent style, well, unfortunately, you are not going to be reattracting your ex most of the time. Now this, of course, doesn't have to be precise. What I mean by this is when I'm saying consistently, it doesn't mean, well, that only fits into this category if you reach out every first of the month or every last day of the month you reach out, and that is consistently. And if you don't do that, well, it's not. If you reach out after 2 weeks, then maybe 7 weeks, and then 4 weeks, that doesn't count. No, it does count. It still counts as consistently. Because if you are reaching out to your ex in any way, shape or form, and you continue to do this, this would definitely fit within that realm of what we're talking about here. If you want to try to get your ex back, the best, by and large, strategy I would suggest for most of you listening is to never contact your ex again unless they contact you first. Does it mean it fits every single criteria? No, it doesn't. But does it mean it fits most of the criteria? Yes, it does. If you've been dumped, your best move right now is to not contact your ex unless they contact you first, unless there is a very specific circumstance within your situation. So now let's get into point number 2 and the second point of today's podcast. Please like this video if you're watching on YouTube, and if you have a new hype feature, please hype this video as well. If you like my content, subscribe to the channel to keep updated. And point number 2 is the single honeymoon period. Now this is a period of time that your ex-dumper enters as soon as they end the relationship. From my research, it tends to last 6 to 12 months on average, and in essence, it is a lifestyle that your ex-dumper believed they couldn't live within your relationship. Now, probably the scariest thing for a dumpee to consider is their ex dating someone new, and we have to be honest that going on dates is something that would fit into this single honeymoon period. Even though they might be quote-unquote in a relationship, we still count it as the single honeymoon period because it's the period of time post-breakup where they're trying new things, they're doing new things, and going on dates with different people would constitute as that. Even if they're saying, yes, I'm in a new relationship, the likelihood is, dumpees, it won't last very long. Most relationships which start within a year post-breakup don't last the test of time. They're known as rebound relationships. So this would all come under the single honeymoon period, and whether they are dating someone new, which hopefully they're not, and not all dumpers do, or whether they're spending time with friends, whether they are going and attending new events and situations and going different places, whatever it is that they are doing that they weren't doing when they were with you, this would sadly mean that they are less likely to be thinking about you. They're not going to be thinking about you because they are busy doing other things. Now you might think, well, surely they will still remember me because it was only just a few months ago or whatnot, we were together and we've been together years. Well, yes, of course, they still remember you. They will always remember you. You will always be part of their life story. They will always be part of your life story. But what we're talking about is the day-to-day thinking about you. If, for instance, during this 6-month period. Of course, if it is the 12-month period, it will definitely consider every date on the calendar. When there are specific dates which are connected to you both, they will still think of you. That goes without saying. Triggers still happen, but we're speaking about a day-to-day thinking of you. And if you're wondering if your ex-dumper is thinking of you right now, and they're going through a single honeymoon period, the likelihood is they're probably not, because most of the time they won't be when they are focused on doing other things, seeing new people, doing different activities, trying to experience a different life path. Now this doesn't mean you can't get your ex back, and I would suggest that there is no dumper that will come back until they feel they have lived their single honeymoon period. Some come and go and end much quicker than average. Some go beyond the average. But if somebody ends a relationship, they're going to want to see what life is like outside of it before they even consider they've made a mistake. How can you decide, yes, I've made an error of judgment, if you haven't even tried to live your life as a single person? Like I said, it doesn't necessarily mean they are going to date new people. We have to make that clear. It doesn't mean your ex is dating new people, even if you find out they're on the apps. It doesn't mean they're actually meeting anyone. It might mean they're just speaking to a few different people. It's not nice to hear, but we have to be truthful. We have to be honest. As a dumpee, you need to be focusing on your life during this time and trying to make sure that you don't think about your ex to the point of where you can't do your own thing. If you want to try to get your ex back, you need to make sure that you are growing every day and that you're experiencing your life on a different path. In essence, you need to be living your single honeymoon period. Now, dumpees find this very difficult, and eventually a dumpee will likely get to this place, but often it's beyond when the dumper is doing it. That's why sometimes we have a mismatch. The dumper might go on their single honeymoon period for 6 to 12 months post-breakup, then they come out of the other side, they decide they've made a mistake, they want to come back to their dumpee, they reach out, and they find out the dumpee is actually starting to live their single honeymoon period. Maybe the dumpee in this instance didn't live theirs initially. They was feeling very, very distressed due to the breakup. They couldn't focus on their own life. They just thought about their ex. Maybe they did some chasing. And eventually they come round to a point where they do want to live life on their own path, doing their own thing. But they didn't begin their single honeymoon period for a year or so post-breakup. So the dumper wants to come back, and the dumpee is now actually focused on other things. The amount of times I hear dumpees turn a dumper down would probably surprise you. You might be listening to this as a dumpee and thinking, I would never turn down my ex. I would never ever say no if they came back. But honestly, it happens more often than you think, because by the time they do come back, you could easily be in a position where you want to focus on trying new things yourself. Now, if you would like advice and support about how to try and increase the chance of one day getting your ex back, then you may want to consider my audio coaching service, where me and you can speak one-on-one about your unique specific situation. Go to my website www.dateme.tips for more information about how I can become your coach and your teammate via my audio coaching service. Talking about your feelings can also improve your mental health. It helps prevent the build-up of negative emotions, which can lead to stress, anxiety, depression, and even physical health issues. Speak your heart to free your mind. So now let's get into point number 3 and the final point of today's podcast. If you feel that this podcast has helped you, then please consider buying me a coffee. The link to do so is in the description. And point number 3 is it's been more than a year. So today we're speaking about why your ex isn't thinking about you. And point number 3 is when it has been a very long time. Now don't get me wrong, if you were dumped more than a year ago, I will still never say never. I hear about dumpers coming back to dumpees years into the future. It does happen. It is possible. But we have to be honest, the chances do reduce. And not only that, your ex-dumper is not likely to be thinking of you every day. They're not likely to be thinking of you every week even. Now, triggers do still have effect on your ex. Days on the calendar will still have a pull, but the pull is lessened. Once every day of the year has happened at least once, that means that every anniversary, every pull, every trigger, so to speak, has happened at least once regarding dates. And if they haven't wanted to reconnect with you, during the first time around. The second time around, well, the pull, unfortunately, is not quite as strong. It doesn't mean it's not there. It doesn't mean they won't think of you at times, but they won't be thinking of you every single day. Also, there are triggers which are not connected to dates on the calendar. Maybe they're connected to locations or smells or food or anything it could be which takes them back to thinking of a moment with you. Now, if that hasn't happened yet within a year or so, then when it does, it will be a very strong trigger. The point being is that triggers lose power over time. Doesn't mean they totally go away, doesn't mean they are totally ineffective, but they do lose their power over time. So if you're wondering, is my ex-dumper thinking of me right now, and you were dumped 18 months ago, the likelihood is the answer sadly is no. Because if you were to consider what you're doing right now in your life and what they're doing right now in their life, there's probably going to be a gap. You've gone in different directions. Again, it doesn't mean you can't get them back. It doesn't mean that I would be surprised if you were to tell me you got your ex back after 3 years. It can happen. It does happen. But we have to be honest, the chance does reduce. And even if you do get them back, you would probably find out through conversations back together that they weren't thinking of you every single day. Now, the thing is, dumpees, but if it has been more than a year for you, I would really like you to focus on your life. You need to be doing things for you and living your journey. If your ex comes back, then that is a fantastic bonus for you to have the choice of whether you accept them back into your life or not. But now is the time to really focus on you and living your life, because if you don't get them back, you can find someone even better.